How do we handle students who are disrupting and being disrespectful? On this quick episode of Student Ministry Connection, I'll share a few tips and some things to keep in mind when working with some of the more difficult students in your ministry. Welcome to Student Ministry Connection. My name is Steve Cullum, and in all my years of student ministry, a few things have stayed the same. Number one, teenagers need Jesus. And number two, many of those teenagers are disrespectful and disruptive. I remember when I was serving at this one church and we were reaching a lot of new students from the community around the church. It was awesome. But because they were brand new to the whole church thing, they didn't know how to act a lot of times. And so many of them were also coming from broken families and parents who were in jail, and they had very few people, if anyone, who could come alongside them in a loving way and support them. Our job as student ministry leaders can be really tough sometimes, but it's also so very worth it, especially when we get to see teenagers surrender their lives to Jesus and pursue the life that He has for them. But in the meantime, if we're doing our job well, we're going to encounter some students who are both disrespectful and disruptive. So, what do we do? Well, here are a few ideas based on my own experience and some things that I've learned from my mentors. First of all, we need to connect with each student individually and get to know their story and where they come from and what's important to them. And while this is important for every student, it's really going to help when we encounter students that are acting out. And as you and your leaders get to know students, you might find out that some of them are maybe on the spectrum or dealing with a number of other things that they're bringing into your youth group. Every student is unique, so we need to work with them based on their specific needs. And if you do have students who have special needs, for example, you may want to get a leader that specializes in that. And speaking of leaders, I think it's really important to look at how many leaders we have, what training we've done with them, and how we're setting them up for success. If you're looking to grow in any of these areas, I've got a series of podcast episodes I want you to check out. Episode 69 is about recruiting a great team. 113 is about forming and onboarding your team. 114 is training and discipling your team. And 115 is empowering and multiplying your team. But even if your team is not exactly where you want it to be right now, here are a few general suggestions in that area. No matter how you structure your group, whether it's a formal worship setting with rows of chairs and a stage, or if you have everyone sitting in a big circle or something completely different, get your volunteers to sit in the midst of the group, easily able to help keep everyone under control and paying attention. A lot of times I've seen leaders who want to gather in the back, and sometimes they're even disruptive themselves. But when they're sitting in the middle of the students, they can easily step in and respond to someone who's causing a disruption. And when they do that, I have a 4-step process that I've picked up along the way from several other leaders who have come before me. So when a student is being disruptive, the first step is to look. Give that student a look and motion for them to pay attention. If that doesn't work, the second step is to tap. Tap the student on the shoulder to remind them to pay attention. If that doesn't work, number 3 is to move. Move by them and help them to pay attention. And again, if that doesn't work, number 4 is to remove. Remove that student as the distraction and have a conversation with them about the expectations and why they're not paying attention. Remember what I said earlier about getting to know the student? This is a great time to lean into that. And it could also be a great time to help them understand the expectations for being a part of the group, especially if they're new to the whole church thing. Also, if it's the same student that's doing this over and over, consider talking with their parents or grandparents or guardians to find out why they're being disrespectful and disruptive. Maybe there's something else going on there. But remember, the 4-step process is to look, tap, move, and remove. And if you have students who are being disrespectful in a small group setting, for instance, This is where I always, as the youth pastor, would step in and remove those students so that those small group leaders could focus on what they really are there to do. So if a student was getting too unruly that the leader couldn't handle, I told them to contact me and I would come in and remove that student from their group so that they could focus on the rest of the group. And if you have a lot of students that are just not getting it and being disruptive and disrespectful, it may actually come down to your program style and strategy. You may just need to completely change things up. Maybe your structure doesn't work for the majority of the students you're reaching. Maybe they need something else. If you've been leading a ministry for a while, ask your leadership if it's okay to try some new things. On episode 159, I talked about experimenting in the margins. And maybe it's time to start experimenting in your ministry to see if a new approach might work better. Remember, the things that work for another ministry won't necessarily work in your ministry. You know your students in your community, so don't feel like you have to do youth group the same as everyone else. Simply do what works best for your context. And finally, we need to make sure that everything we do is interactive and tailored to our audience's background and understanding. For example, most students who are new to church might not want to sit still and listen to the Bible if they don't really even understand any of it or why it's even important. So make your teaching time personal and help them connect with Jesus. I know I've suggested a lot of previous episodes today, but I want to push one more. Episode 133 with Mike Haynes is all about how to captivate students' attention when you're teaching. If you have any more ideas or how you've handled situations like this, I would love to hear them. Send them to us on social media or email us at studentministryconnection@gmail.com. And if you've enjoyed this episode, can I ask you to do two things? First, please leave a positive review on your podcast app of choice. And second, please share this with other leaders who may benefit from it. And if you'd like to support what I do with National Network of Youth Ministries, head over to nnym.org/Steve Cullum, or just follow the links in the show notes to learn how you can join my prayer partnership team and my financial partnership team, which in part actually makes this podcast possible. If you've ever needed a speaker for your student ministry event, but weren't really sure where to start looking, I want to encourage you to check out Speaker Hub, a brand new resource from Youth Men Hub. I'm on there, and so are a number of other great people that you can contact for your next event, training, camp, or those nights when you just need a break from youth group. Check it out at youthmenhub.com/speakerhub, or follow the link in the show notes. And also another reminder, if you're going to be at the DYM First Decade and Youth Ministry Conference in October 2025, or the Youth Pastor Summit or DYM 100 Roundtable in November of 2025, please be sure to find me and say hello. I would love to meet you in person. We'll be back in a couple weeks with our next episode, but until then, be sure to stay connected and may God bless your ministry.